Welcome to the Department Chair Leadership Podcast, where the goal is to improve organizations and serve students one leader at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Jochum. If you're a department chair in higher education or any type of educational leader, and you want to improve yourself to better serve and influence those you lead, you've come to the right place, because the best way to improve an organization is to improve its leader. Let's get started. All right, welcome back, friends, to the Department Chair Leadership Podcast. Have a great guest on today. You're not going to want to miss this. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Michael O. Jones, who has served as a K through 16 teacher, executive director, principal, leadership coach for 30 years in the public and private education sectors in the United States, Jamaica, United Arab Emirates, Slovakia, Nigeria, and Ghana. Currently leads as a senior education manager at the San Francisco Unified School District and San Francisco Charter President for the Association of California School Administrators, Region 5. So, Dr. Michael Jones, Dr. Mike, welcome to the show. How are we doing today?
Wow, I'm doing well. What an introduction. And gosh, sounds like you're talking about some other person.
Oh, well, hey, I am so happy to have you. Just for our listeners know, Mike and I made a professional and personal connection a while back as part, just to give a shout out, of the Within Our Ranks Training Academy through Stand Tall Steve. So I just want to give a shout out to that. And we're going to learn a lot about Mike and his leadership philosophy and some of the things that he's passionate about. I know that he leads, if not the largest, one of the largest or the largest high schools in San Francisco. And as you can see here, he has literally influenced teachers, students, and communities around the world. So, Mike, I just want to turn it over to you. And why don't you just share some of the things that you're passionate about, knowing that we have people listening from hopefully all areas of leadership, both inside higher ed, K-12, and maybe even beyond. And leadership is leadership. Passion is passion. What are some things that you want to share? And we can kind of take the conversation from there.
Yeah, Chris, well, thanks again for having me on your podcast. And also, thanks for hanging out when you came to San Francisco recently. It's a great city here. But I wanted to just say right off the cuff that I'm truly passionate about educational leadership, and that is my drive, that is my ambition, that is what I live for, connecting with folks and building positive relationships. And that's how you and I connected so well, because I think we're like-minded. We're kinsmen, if you will, in that regard. And I also have benefited greatly in my career, elementary, middle, and high schools, all the way up as long as I can remember. I had folks around me who were really passionate and concerned about me, as well as other students in our school community, in terms of our overall success. First of all, concerned about us as humans, and then secondly, concerned about us in terms of our potential to contribute to the global community in a positive and impactful way. And so I would say that my passion comes from those folks who actually are responsible for me talking to you right now as an educational leader. And I have also been very fortunate to have folks, I think you know this, Chris, we're not born leaders. I don't think we're born leaders. I think we are told that we are leaders, and that we have this innate leadership that we don't know about until someone points it out. And that's what happened to me. All throughout elementary, middle, and high school, I was class president from grade 7 all the way to graduation. And every time we had our beginning of the year school meetings, our grade level meetings, I would decline when they would nominate me. And my homeroom teacher would come over to me and say, "You're not allowed to decline." And so I was put in these leadership positions, and so I say that to say to you and the listeners, Chris, that it's very important that we see leadership in others. There's some type of leader in all of us, and the leadership that we are specifically talking about today is educational leadership. There's such a need to expand our reach, especially on the heels of COVID, the pandemic. Chris, full well, as a director of teacher leadership at your university, that, this is an issue, shortage of teachers, and even more so, shortage of administrators, And so I believe it's so important for us to create a principal pipeline whereby we are growing from within, if you will, because we're not growing from without. The research is clear. Folks are not coming back to those who have left are not coming back to education for different reasons, political, social, and just people are still dealing with trauma, right, from the pandemic. And so I think I would love to dig deeper into this conversation with you about how we can create that principal pipeline of effective leaders.
Well, Mike, I couldn't agree more. I'm very passionate. You touched on so many things about leadership. I think it takes somebody to ignite that kind of passion in us, even if we have leadership leanings throughout our life. And so I agree. I'm very passionate about developing teacher leaders. I always say you don't have to leave to lead. Let's keep our best people in front of kids teaching. But the problem, and this is not a rural problem, this is not an urban, this is at least a countrywide problem, if not worldwide. I'm in Western Kansas. You're in the Bay Area. In many ways, we couldn't differ more in terms of urban and rural, but I think we struggle with the same issues. Not only are some of our best teachers leaving, but what happens is then those that are left, even though they have leadership potential, maybe we put them in that pipeline a little too early, or maybe we do so without giving them the support. And so, Mike, why don't you just talk? And again, if you are listening, I don't care if you're in higher ed or K-12, we need to mentor and we need to bring up leaders in every organization, from the local schoolhouse to the bank to the every place. And Mike is an expert. He's done this across the world. Mike, why don't you just talk about your thoughts and what you're doing, and maybe what you might want to impress upon our listeners about how are you contributing to developing that principal pipeline? Because in my mind, that is critical to keeping our schools where they need to be. And in rural America, it might mean keeping the schools open. So why don't you talk about that and share what you're doing in that regard?
Yeah, well, Chris, first of all, I'm identifying leaders, as I said earlier. Like, I'm identifying folks who have what I call the magic. There are folks that you meet in education throughout my career. They have that special touch. They have that special magic when it comes to administration and dealing with kids and dealing with staff and dealing with community and parents and caregivers, and being able to thrive, if you will, Chris, in controlled chaos, because that's what administration is, right? And on the high school level specifically, where, like you said earlier, I'm the principal of historic, traditional, excellence school, Lowell High School in San Francisco. We're the largest school of any public or private schools in the city and county, some 3,000 students. And so it is a joy to be amongst these stakeholders, but it's also very important that we have a skill set that lends itself to effective leadership and to meeting our targets, if you will, and our goals and our outcomes. What I'm finding, Chris, is administrators are not being prepared, as you and I perhaps were prepared before the pandemic, and some years ago. As you said, I've been an administrator on the high school level and the district level, and doing some things, some consulting and leadership work throughout the country and the world for about 21 years now. And I taught for 9, 10 years. But what I saw then was an intentional preparation for administration, going through like the master's program and having practicum experiences and shadowing principals and assistant principals at the school levels, and going through a very methodical program that will prepare you to take on leadership roles outside of the program, once you land your first job, hopefully in a good place for you. That's a good fit. I'm not seeing that now, because what we're seeing, Chris, is folks are leaving because they're stressed, and I'm saying folks are leaving because they're stressed from the trauma, again, from COVID. They're stressed from the political climate in our nation that impacts our schools, the issues around what curriculum can and cannot be taught, etc. And also, in terms of the lack of family values, because the family structure has changed also, right? And the demands on our families has changed, and folks are desperate, and folks are short tempered, and folks are not as patient and gracious as they were before in education. And so those of us who've been here for a while are leaving. And so some of the things that I'm doing are identifying folks who have the leadership acumen, if you will, as a teacher first. And so that's important. I'm intentionally, when I evaluate and look into the learning environment of the classrooms that I'm visiting, I'm noticing folks who have the capacity to be leaders, and I'm tapping them on the shoulder, just like I was tapped on the shoulder by my middle school principal, who said, "Hey, you've got what it takes. I'm going to recommend you to the Aspiring Leaders Program in my district." And that was, oh my God, I don't want to tell you how long ago that was, because, yeah. But I'm doing the same thing. And I am strategically taking these folks under my wing. And I am taking what I have learned as a leader, and I'm trying to help duplicate my leadership, the effective leadership that I've learned over the years from trial and error, because, we will make mistakes. We learn by doing, Chris, right? And we learn by making mistakes. And leadership is taking risks, right? And so I think these are all things that we are intentional about telling folks. So this principal pipeline that I've been involved in principal pipeline for some years now as an administrator, a high school principal. Um, I have strategically brought people on my team as assistant principals and deans of students with the understanding that I'm going to coach you and mentor you up, if you will, so that you can take my seat in a few years. And so that is something that I've always done, and that has been one of my goals as a leader. I don't think that we're effective leaders, Chris, and everyone out there listening, if you're not able to duplicate yourself, and you're not able to train leaders to do what you do even better than the way you're doing it, then I think we're failing as leaders.
Mike, great stuff. I couldn't agree more. One thing I love leadership is taking risks. It's about being courageous. You touched on something, and because this is true, because you are an exceptional leader, leadership takes vulnerability, and leadership takes the mindset that I'm okay. Actually, my goal when I mentor somebody is they need to eventually do things that I can't. Now, we know that people are, all types of people. Some people might not feel confident in recruiting and creating a leader that maybe someday can do things that they can't. I would encourage people listening to adopt that mindset. So when you recruit and identify these potential leaders, and they tell you, I'm sure you've heard this. Have you ever heard this, Mike? Oh my gosh, you couldn't pay me enough to do what you do. I don't, right? I don't. Wow. All I see is, when I open my classroom door, when I see you being a principal, I don't want that. So,
Yes.
okay. So if I were one of your teachers on your staff and you had identified that I might have what it takes to be in the principal pipeline, and you came to me and said, Chris, I really think you should come to our principal academy. And I said, oh, no, I love teaching. I just want to stay in my classroom, shut my door, because I love what I'm doing. And I don't know what I see you doing, Principal Mike. I don't know if I want to do that. First of all, tell me if I'm off, but if that is a conversation you've had with somebody that you think could really become a great leader, how do you approach that?
Oh, Chris, I approach it from the my own experience because that was my response when my principal said to me, "You're going to be placed in the aspire." And so he didn't give me a choice. So here's the thing: we cannot always give folks a choice, and it's also about a relationship, right? A trust relationship. So just to be clear, these folks with whom I'm um, developing these relationships, they're folks that we have mutual respect and trust, right? And we understand there's a level of communication that lends itself to my being able to say to them, hey, you're doing this. I'm not taking no for an answer. It's time for you to get outside of your comfort zone. You're such an amazing teacher leader in your classroom. You're doing all these things outside the classroom. You're leading clubs and organizations, school community groups. I mean, you're ticking all the boxes, checking all the boxes. But you know what the greatest fear I see, Chris, when I'm talking to these folks, and usually I will just jump right to it, and that is the fear of failure because they feel that they are going to fail because unfortunately they've either seen a principal or an assistant principal who's failed or has been fired or dismissed for some indiscretion or possibly just some bad judgment call, etc. And so what I say to them, it's my responsibility to make sure that you're well prepared and that you are not going to be placed in that position. And you can look at me as example, as a model. Here I am 30 years later, I'm still standing, I'm still passionate about kids. You're here sitting in front of me in my office, my virtual office, because students, parents, teachers, politicians in my case, our school is a high profile school, civic leaders, community leaders are all giving me the motivation and inspiration I need because, it's a reciprocal relationship. And that's what I'm telling everyone. It's a reciprocal relationship, and you have to be open to being taught and also teaching others, just like you are in the classroom. I'm still a teacher, and here's the last thing I want to say. I also make sure they understand becoming an administrator or a principal, assistant principal, dean of students does not mean you are no longer a teacher. You're still a teacher, you're just teaching on a different level. So when people say to me, "Oh, you're a teacher," or "Are you a principal?" or "Are you a teacher?" My answer to them is yes, I'm a teacher. Although I've been a principal for over 20 years now, because I'm still teaching and I'm still learning.
I couldn't agree more. I lead a department of teacher education, and I still say I'm a teacher, I'm an educator first. I just happen to serve the students differently. But we are still, obviously, in my world, very student centered. So, Mike, if somebody obviously is they're scared of failure, leadership can be scary. What are some things, if you had to pick one or two things that you really that are foundational to your leadership philosophy? And it could be a number of things, but what are some things that you have found are very helpful that you can share with these teachers, these future, what I call title leaders? Because as you know, if you work with kids, you're a leader. It's just sometimes it takes a few more years to get the title, but you're a leader from day one. What are
Yes.
some things that you share with them about your philosophy that you have found helps bridge that gap and address that area of concern, to where they now realize that, yes, I can serve kids maybe from a greater vantage point, if I am willing to step into that principal role, or that assistant principal role, or dean of students? So what are some things that you have found that you have shared with them that helps bridge that gap and really make that transition from the classroom down the hall to the main office, so to speak?
Yeah, great question, Chris. And I would say it's a, it's a transition. It's the wisdom that we use in terms of the transition process. I do not recommend to those aspiring leaders or people with whom I actually tap on the shoulder as next level leaders to come from the classroom and get on a larger stage, if you will, and teach the classroom at large within the school community. And that is to start in stages. Don't just jump from teacher leader in the classroom to principal. Yeah, perhaps you will start as an instructional facilitator or a content specialist, some other role that's going to help you make a smooth transition so that you're not feeling overwhelmed. Or it could be a dean of students position, which is what I like to consider entry level to assistant principalship and principalship. I think I know you would agree with that as well, Chris. And then after having um, dipped your toe, so to speak, in the water of administration, right? Then you can consider an assistant principalship, because I think leadership is very important for you to understand what type of leader you are, and where your skills are best needed. And so I think the right fit for you, it might not be in the school where you are currently, which is a part of my philosophy, Chris, that I share with folks, and I want to share with everyone listening today. It's so very important for us to connect to someone who's doing great things as an educational leader or instruction, and someone who we admire, someone who we feel is an effective leader. It's so important to connect to them, because that is going to carry you through the times where you will question yourself as a leader and question whether or not you should have left the classroom in the first place, because it will happen, because the job is fast paced, it's overwhelming, and obviously it's overwhelming because we wouldn't need to have a principal pipeline that we're creating, right, or wanting to perpetuate. And so that's the thing, connecting to someone who's doing what you desire to do at a level you desire to do it. Peer observations, shadow an assistant principal, shadow a dean for a day or a week, shadow a principal, go outside of your school environment. And these are opportunities that I provide for folks who I've tapped on the shoulder, so that you can see a diversity of leadership styles, because everyone has their own style and everyone has their own way of dealing with their school community. And I would say these things will help you as an aspiring leader to really learn your personality as an administrator or an instructional leader, and it will help you to build your foundation for meeting the needs of the students, because that's what it's all about, serving our students. So my philosophy, and I should say my mantra over the years, and Chris, it took me 42 years of my life before I could actually put this into words. I knew I had a purpose and I knew I was living it, but every time someone asked me what my purpose was, I was never able to put it in words until I turned 42. I don't know, that was a magic number. And that is to inspire and motivate others through excellence in education, leadership, and service. So every facet of my being, my life, personal and professional, I've always been able to trace back to service, education, and leadership. And I know that people receive inspiration and motivation from me. How do I know these things, Chris? People will tell you who you are if you listen to them. They will tell you what kind of leader you are if you listen to them, if you're willing to be vulnerable. And that's how I know what type of leader I am. And that's why I'm still standing and I'm still smiling every day when I go to work and happy about it.
Finally, Mike, I always like to ask guests, what are you currently doing right now or hope to do to improve or to continue to improve yourself as a leader?
Oh gosh, well, like you said earlier, shout out to Steve Bolar and within our ranks. I've joined the ranks with you and Steve and our other colleagues to move into the speaking circuit and to expand my leadership and reach across the nation and the globe. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing lots of work around uh, getting some speaking engagements. I'm doing some things. I'm doing coaching one-on-one for aspiring leaders right now, folks who are currently teachers. I'm also coaching folks who are in their first and second year as assistant principals. And I'm actually coaching some folks who are sitting principals. So those are things that I'm doing as a way of giving back, Chris. A lot of what has been given to me, and just trying to pay it forward as we continue to prepare or I should say, to keep this pipeline to the principalship clear and free of debris, right? We won't need. We're like the human Drano, right? To clear the lines and to let people know, hey, it's still we're repairing the pipes. We're changing out the pipes. We're clearing them out. We're making it clear that this is not an easy job, but it's certainly a rewarding one. And we want to identify folks who are next level leaders to take care of our global community in the best way possible.
I can't wait to continue, stay in touch and learn the great things that you are doing both locally and globally. I will put in the show notes all of the different ways that you can contact Mike if you're interested in coaching opportunities or bringing him to work with your team, because as he said, he's passionate about leading and mentoring the next generation of leaders. It's not an easy gig, people, but if it were, it wouldn't be something we were called to do. But it's very, very rewarding. So, Mike, thank you for joining us today on the Department Chair Leadership Podcast. As always, I thank our listeners for taking time to improve their organizations and enrich the lives of those within them by developing themselves as leaders. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Department Chair Leadership Podcast. If you want to learn more about my leadership philosophy and how to be an effective chair, please consider my book, The Department Chair, A Practical Guide to Effective Leadership. You can find this and learn more about me by going to cjleadership.com. Also, please be sure to like this podcast, leave a review, and share with your colleagues. Thanks again for improving your organization and those you serve by improving yourself. Take care.